Alright, this video is going to go over how to use the post-render notification tool. It's a fairly simple tool to use. As you can see, there's not much to the interface here, but nevertheless, I'll go through what each and every component does, that way there's no confusion. But first things first, I'll go ahead and say that if you haven't watched the video on how to run and install the tools and scripts that I make, I would highly suggest watching that before continuing, due to the fact that I won't be covering that in this video. And there is a newer version, so if you've watched the older version, I would suggest watching the newer one as well. But yeah, go ahead and watch that, and then once you're done, you'll be ready to go, and we can go ahead and get into how to use this. So the post-render notification tool, what does it do? It basically is going to send an email notification to you as soon as your batch render is finished, and it's going to send it from your own email. That's pretty much the short version of it, and we'll go into a little bit of the specifics later, but for now, just know that it's going to send an email from yourself to yourself after your batch render is finished. Alright, so now that we've got the tool downloaded and installed and we're up and running, I'll go ahead and go through what all of these components do, so that way there's no confusion and you can use this tool to the best of its ability. So I'll go ahead and go straight from the top down, and right away you can see my website logo right here to the top left. And beyond just being nice to look at and kind of giving the tool a little bit of a branding, when clicked it will take you straight to my website. So if you ever want to check out any of the other stuff I've done, it will get you there rather than having to go search. So that's kind of nice. And then the button that's right next to it will do something similar. It'll just take you to this video, and obviously when I click it, it's not up yet. Nevertheless, it will take you to this video. So if you ever forget what anything does, or if you're kind of unclear about something, then just that will take you straight there and you'll be up and running in no time. So that's the top up here, and then after that you can see that there's an email, password, remember email, and remember password area, and these are kind of be the main things you actually will be using on a regular basis. And basically what you're going to do, you can probably guess already, but you're going to go ahead and type in your email and password to that email account. So I'll go ahead and use mine here for demonstration purposes, and you can see one thing that's really nice is that the password is blocked out. That way if anybody else is kind of standing there, you don't have to worry about your password being visible. So that's kind of nice. And then the remember email and remember password area is basically just going to be a way for you to save your preferences of this tool. And basically when you click batch render, it will make a text document that stores this information in it, and it loads it back next time you open the window. So if you notice before, when I started, there was nothing in here, and then if I go ahead and hit batch render and then I just cancel out of that, you can see next time I open it, it loaded my email because I had remember email open. And what's nice is it saves the preferences for what's checked too. So if you checked this, it will remember that, and next time you open it, this will be checked. So that's kind of nice. That way you don't have to keep typing in the information over and over and over. There's something that you may want to be aware of when using these, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Basically what it is it's going to store your password into memory, and it isn't really secure. So I'll go over that a little bit later and show you once we have the information from the batch render. Alright, so after all of that, you can see down at the bottom we have just a few buttons, and they're pretty self-explanatory with the names that they have, but I'll go through them anyways. And basically the batch render is going to do exactly what it sounds like. It's going to initiate the batch rendering process, and on top of that it's going to go ahead and save your scene that you're in. And then next to it you can see that there's a render settings button, and this is mainly due to the fact that you've probably seen when I click on this window, our tool goes away, and that is a problem that I haven't yet fixed, and I'm not 100% sure how to fix. So for the time being, that render settings button is there just in case you want to check your render settings one last time before rendering. You can go ahead and do that, and then go ahead and batch render. So that's that. And then the cancel button is basically there just so you can close out of the window. I didn't want to have to put this in here because obviously we can just go ahead and click the X, but if you'll notice, if you'll watch over here, like you've probably seen already, is when I go ahead and batch render, it says existing windows deleted even though we clearly clicked out of it. But if I go ahead and do cancel and then reload it, it says window does not yet exist. And that's because this is just deleting this interface itself instead of where this is just basically making the window invisible. So kind of a little bit redundant, but nevertheless it's there just in case. So after we've got that all typed in, I'll go ahead and type in my password again. We're ready to go and we're ready to batch render, but before we do any of that, I want to go ahead and talk about some of the error handling features that I added into this tool. And there's only 3 of those, I believe, for the time being. And one of those is you probably noticed one earlier when I went to batch render. If you're not in a valid scene, in other words, if you're in this untitled up here, and you go to batch render, it'll bring up the open menu, and it's just basically going to require you to open a scene. So I'll go ahead and open a scene, and you can see right away, now it just brings up my scene, and that's all it's really doing, because the tool is basically going to batch render whatever scene you're in. So that's kind of important, just to be sure that you're in a scene. So the next kind of error handling feature that comes with this tool is that it will check if you have internet connection or not. So obviously when we're sending an email, we're going to need internet connected to our computer in order for it to actually send. So the tool goes ahead and checks to see if you're connected to the internet or not. And if you're not, it will bring up this window. Now it's important to know that you can go ahead and batch render without having internet, and then you can connect the internet in later. So if you're kind of on a time crunch or you're just running to get the batch render going, you can go ahead and continue yes, and then hook up the Ethernet or turn on Wi-Fi, and it will check it again later and then send the email if you have internet. If you don't want to batch render without internet turned on, you can go ahead and hit no and it'll refresh. But when you hit yes, it will go ahead and batch render anyways, and you can either hook it up later or it just won't send you an email notification. So that's kind of an important thing to know. The last type of error handling is to do with the email and password information. So we'll go ahead and turn the Wi-Fi back on here, and we've got it all typed in perfectly here, but if I go ahead and type in some nonsense here, and maybe we forgot to put our @ sign, and we go to batch render, it will tell us that there's something wrong with the email or password. So if you don't type in the email format right, it will give you an error and it will reset. So we'll go ahead and type that back in, and then if our password is wrong, it will try to log into your account and then log back out, and if it can't do any of that, it's going to give you that same error and it's going to refresh and you'll just have to type it in. We'll go ahead and type in our password and get going with it. So those are the error handling things, just to kind of keep in mind. Just make sure everything is typed in properly, and then that you have internet and that you're in a valid scene file. So that's pretty much it for the error handling side of it. And once we've got everything typed in properly, we're ready to go, and I'll go ahead and batch render. If everything's good, you'll see the save scene file, and then I'm going to go over exactly what the preferences deal was. So if you remember earlier when I was talking about the preferences giving you a problem if you saved them, and that is that your preferences will be saved in memory. So you can see in this text document that was generated when we batch rendered, the password to your email account is stored not with stars or circles like it is in the interface, but it's stored with the actual text that it is. So that is something to be aware of if you are overprotective of your passwords, whether or not you should use the remember password or not. I don't think anybody's going to be coming in and out of here looking for your passwords, but that's just one thing I wanted everybody to know, is that the password is visible within this document. So you can choose whether or not you're going to use that or not. And so we can see over up to the side, it's done, it's sent it to us. One other thing I'll note that before we go over and look at the email is that the batch render no longer shows the normal progress message that you get with the batch render in Maya. It shows the progress message as if you were looking at it through the terminal. So that may not be important to you, but basically it's not going to show you exactly what pass and what layer you're on anymore. It'll just show you the percentage that it has done. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But yeah, so our render went through, we're good, no problems, and it sent it to our email. So we'll go ahead and check that out. Alright, so we can see that our email was sent successfully to us, and you can see right there what I was talking about. It's sending it from yourself to yourself because it's just using your email for the from and the to side of the email. So when we open the email that we've gotten, we can see that it sends a little bit of information regarding our render, and those are basically just what scene we were rendering in, what time it started, what time it finished, and then how long it took. And then obviously you can see down here that we have some preview images from what we rendered. So that's kind of a nice feature to have. That way you don't have to wait until you get back to your computer to see what the outcome was you can see exactly what it was right there in the email. So that's basically kind of how you'll use the render notification system, and then exactly what it will send to you once you've got it ready to go. I'll go over some of the potential problems here, and then you guys can go ahead and download it and use it. So some of the potential problems you may run into while using this tool are things that may cause the tool to crash or just not work in general. So the first one of those is basically going to be if you have a weak internet connection. This may have trouble sending the email. Not that if you have no internet, it's basically if you have slow internet to where the tool is unable to send the email within the server's time limit before timing out. So that may happen every now and then, so be aware that if you have slow internet, you may encounter some problems. Another problem you may encounter while you're using this tool has to do with the bonus tools. Now, if you don't know what the bonus tools are, then you probably won't have any problem with this, but if you do, and if you've downloaded the bonus tools, then you will most likely get a problem whenever you go to render if they're activated in your plugin manager. I'll go up here and show you from a render I did earlier where you'll get an error telling you that bonus tools basically just doesn't like what you're doing right there. And it shouldn't crash your render, but what I always do just to be safe is just run over to the plugin manager and turn that off just in case, just to be safe. You just open up your plugin manager and it's usually all the way at the bottom. Right there, yeah. And just go ahead and apply to all, just uncheck everything just so you can be sure, and then whenever you're done you can go ahead and turn it back on for whatever you need it for. But yeah, that's one thing I would do, is just make sure that that's off. Another potential problem you'll probably run into while using this tool if you're using a Gmail account is that you have some security preferences that are not allowing this tool to use your email. So I would highly suggest before actually using this on a project, just going ahead and testing it out really quick to see if everything's working okay. And most likely for the first time using a Gmail account, I'm not sure with other emails, but with the Gmail, it will tell you, it'll send you an email that says something tried to log into your account unauthorized or something like that, and the whole tool will crash. So if you want to be able to use that, you may have to disable that for it to work, but that's one thing to kind of be aware of. But another problem you'll probably run into if you're rendering EXRs, you will not get the images in the email, and that's because EXRs are just usually not supported by website uploads and stuff like that, because they're pretty much meant for compositing. They're not really for uploading and showing people. I don't know a whole lot about that. I just know that from my testing it hasn't worked at all. So that's something to keep in mind. But as you can see from the email we got earlier, I was rendering TIFFs, and TIFFs were fine. So anything that is a normal file will also work. JPEGs, PNGs. But of course, usually when you're rendering, you're probably rendering EXRs. And then the last thing that you'll probably run into is your email not working at all. And that is due to the limited amount of emails that this tool currently works on. Because of the way I had to set it up, I have to have the email account you're using send through the proper email server. So there's only a few emails that this actually works on for the time being. And those are Yahoo, Hotmail, Outlook, Office 365 for Outlook, AOL, and then of course Gmail. I'm not 100% sure if the Yahoo or Hotmail works or the Outlook, and that's because I don't have accounts in those, but I know for a fact that AOL, Office 365, and Gmail works. And Office 365 is what Full Sail emails run through. So if you're a Full Sail student or instructor and you have a fullsail.com or edu email, it will work 100%. So that's nice. But other than that, if you don't have any of those emails and you want to be able to use another email other than those that are working, email me and let me know what that is, and I can try to set it up for you, and then I'll send it to you and you can then use it from there. I'll put a lot of this information into that text document that I'll be putting in this folder, so definitely check that out. But that's pretty much all I have for this video. I hope it wasn't too long. I hope you guys really get to use and enjoy this. I wanted to be able to make something that was pretty useful and would help speed up batch rendering workflow, because I know what it's like when you're trying to batch render and you don't know if it's finished yet or not, and you come back and it's either still rendering or it's been done rendering for about 4 hours. So this will hopefully be able to speed up that workflow a little bit. So go ahead and download that, enjoy it, and thanks for watching.